Welcome back to the Farm Show here on Westplex Talk 1045. It is C Block, our third and final segment for Saturday, September 27th. Today in C Block, we'll be talking about weeds, and then we'll be talking about weed. We're going to start off talking about fall burn down of weeds. The Ask the Agronomist feature brought to us by DEKALB Asgrow. You can find their channel at DEKALB Asgrow, Western Illinois on YouTube. Venerated agronomist Lance Tarochione from DEKALB Asgrow, Bayer, however you want to assign his title. Let's hear what Lance had to say this week about fall burn down.
Even though we're in the ravages of a drought, my guess is winter annual weeds will still be here. I can't get my cover crop to germinate, but I'm guessing my chickweed and henbit, and pennycress, and shepherd's purse, and mare's tail, it'll figure it out. So do not forget your fall burn downs. If you're looking to save money by pulling out the residual. Don't save money by not doing it. If all you can afford is a dicamba 2,4-D fall burn down, do it. If all you can afford is a Roundup 2,4-D burn down, do it. If all you can afford is a dicamba burn down, do it. Get your fall burn downs out there. You don't have to have residual. The important thing of a fall burn down is to kill what's there the day you spray. Now, the earlier you want to spray, the more important the residual is, because if you're chasing, and the other reason I don't like chasing the combine with a sprayer, when that residue is fresh and fluffy and laying on top of the weeds, I don't care what you spray. If you don't get it on the weed, you're not going to kill it. Dicamba would probably give you the best odds of killing something that it doesn't land on. But you're better off to get some rain, get that residue kind of matted down a little bit, let the weeds grow up through it so you can get them sprayed. And I know all my applicator friends hate it when I start talking about waiting on fall burn down, because the best time to do fall burn down is right in the middle of ammonia season. The absolute last time any retail person wants to do fall burn down. But like Thanksgiving weekend, Thanksgiving weekend's always a great time to do fall burn down. So it's we do a lot of things at the wrong time because it's convenient, and that's when we can get it done. But if you want to save money on a fall burn down and you don't want to invest a lot in a fall burn down, and you can wait till November to put your fall burn down on, you absolutely do not need residual in fall burn down. The residual you put on a fall burn down isn't doing squat for you in the spring. The only thing the residual is doing is, if you want to spray it early in the fall, it'll keep the field clean if we have a warm, wet, late fall. But keep fall burn down in your heart and in your mind, and try to remember when it's time to write the check how bad you wished you would have done it last spring, because that memory of how bad you wished you had done it last May is pretty far from your mind right now. And trying to figure out how we're going to pay for everything is top of mind right now. So I'm nervous that fall burn down is another practice that some people could say, I don't think I've got money to do that. I hope you do.
So there we go. An honest assessment, as always, from Lance Tarochione from DEKALB Asgrow, Western Illinois. If you got to skip something this fall, skip your residual. Maybe use 2,4-D and dicamba. Maybe you just got to use glyphosate and 2,4-D, or glyphosate and dicamba this year. But don't forget your burn down, or you will pay in the spring. Now, speaking of the other weed, I guess you could call it weeds. I mentioned at the outset of the show that 2 weeks ago we had hemp lobbyist, hemp advocate, Epen Thampy on the show to talk about the hemp industry and some long-term trends there in terms of hemp farming. But also, Christopher Parker from the Washington Missourian did a fantastic piece earlier this month on actual hemp growers right here in Franklin County. Chris actually talked to a hemp grower. I am going to read you the bulk of a piece from Chris Parker. You can subscribe to the Washington Missourian digital edition for only $9.95 a month. You get full access to everything that's in the Washington Missourian for only $9.95 a month. You can go there at emissourian.com. Okay, let's get into Christopher Parker's piece. The headline: Hemp growers double down amid state pressures. Chris Parker begins: even amid regulatory uncertainty, Brian Regal had a successful summer. Regal and his brother John own South Point Hemp, operating out of a facility on Highway 47 between Washington and Union. The Regals grow a kind of cannabis plant that is not, under federal law, technically marijuana. It's hemp, grown with a low enough level of the psychoactive chemical THC to avoid classification as a drug. But South Point Hemp still sells products that create a high, including a beverage called Your Lit. That's UR Lit seltzer. It's not against the law, federally or in Missouri, to process hemp and derive a distilled psychoactive product from the plant as if it were marijuana. Those products are not subject to the same rules as marijuana or any rules relating to controlled substances. Critics, especially those in the marijuana industry, say that's a loophole against the spirit of the law. Regal and other hemp growers disagree. Parker includes a quote from Regal: "We're a fair market kind of entrepreneurship thing." Parker continues: "It's been just over a year since state regulators took aim at the hemp industry in an attempted crackdown on their unregulated products. Officials from the State Department of Health and Senior Services visited Washington and Union to confiscate products. Hemp producers sued. The state pulled back its efforts. An eventful 2025 session in the Missouri legislature saw progress toward new laws governing hemp, infighting over those proposed laws, and a filibuster in the Senate. On the state level, the competing interests are locked in a stalemate." Parker continues: "None of that discord has deterred Regal. He was selling Your Lit seltzers at this year's Washington Town and Country Fair, just like he did in 2024, now offering slushies alongside the canned drinks. He continues to expand his operation, and according to Regal, public awareness is growing." Here's a quote from Regal: "Everybody was very welcoming there. There were far less people that were asking, 'What is this?'" he said. Regal continues: "They understand that it's an alternative. There could be somebody who deals with alcoholism that doesn't want alcohol anymore." Parker continues: "Alcohol use has been declining in popularity nationwide in recent years." And then Chris goes on to cite some data about how many fewer people are drinking alcohol in Missouri than years ago. Here's what Regal says: "You can already see the Anheuser-Busch sales and stuff, or any of those. If you start looking into it, you'll see how much the sales are down year after year." Parker continues: "He isn't the only area hemp producer betting big on the changing tides. John and Kara Grady are veterans and leaders at the newly created VFW Post 12243 in Union. Shoppers at the Washington Farmers Market and other markets around the area have likely seen their booths selling hemp products. This summer, however, they traded in their folding tables and chairs for brick and mortar outlets. The couple opened Slap Happy Hemporium, that's Hemporium, in Rosebud on July 4th. The store sells a huge range of products. Your Lit seltzers and other beverages sit in a mini fridge behind the register. But most of the shelves and display tables are taken up by textiles and packaged foods. John Grady says, we've got everything from DIY to pet foods, pet treats, baby blankets, and towels. We've got clothing. Grady continues, we want to say, come here and see what hemp is. It's not what you make it out to be. If you're just joining us, we're reading a piece from the Washington Missourian written by Chris Parker about local hemp farmers, and you can subscribe to the Washington Missourian for only $9.95 a month, a digital subscription, by going to emissourian.com. Okay, back to Parker's piece. Grady makes no distinction between the household hemp products and those that get people high. He said he's all in on the plant and its wide spectrum of uses, and he's been growing it on his rural property for years. On the federal level, hemp was made legal to grow in 2018 as part of the Farm Bill passed that year. The U.S. Congress distinguished between marijuana and hemp and removed hemp from the federal controlled substance list. Grady maintains that lawmakers intentionally opened the door for all hemp products, including those that contain THC. Now, Mr. Parker goes on to tell the other side of the issue. State Rep Brad Banderman, a Republican from St. Clair, is firmly in the other camp. He told the Missourian he's perfectly fine with hemp t-shirts and paper. He believes that was the true directive of the 2018 federal law change. It's the THC products that concern the lawmaker and youth pastor. Banderman says, I personally do not think the Farm Bill intention was to create a black market of intoxicating marijuana similar products in the hemp world. I remember the debate, at least publicly from the news side standpoint, and you've got to be careful of that sometimes, but it was rope and textile and clothes and things like that. That was what Brad Banderman said. Parker continues, Banderman is a member of the House Committee on Crime and Public Safety in the Missouri legislature. Over the past few years, an increasing number of proposed hemp regulations have come through that committee. This past session was a contentious one, with interests from the marijuana companies and hemp producers vying to write their own regulations. Parker continues, Regal and Grady, like many hemp producers statewide, have called for a separate system of regulations that keeps their products distinct from legal marijuana. They say they'd like to see age restrictions, quality control, and more become part of state law. Other interests have sought to make these products completely illegal or mostly illegal, with some carve-outs for beverages. Brad Banderman, that's the state representative, said the issue remains extremely salient in Jefferson City. Banderman says, I have no doubt that we're going to pick up this issue next session. Absolutely no doubt. Parker continues, Regal is hopeful about a wide-ranging initiative petition, or IP effort, launched in June that would drastically change the cannabis landscape in Missouri. The IP would repeal the 2022 state constitution amendment that legalized marijuana. It would replace it with language that instructs Missouri lawmakers to create regulations that one advocate called, quote, no more burdensome than what we already have for alcohol and tobacco, as the Missouri Independent reported. And we'll pause there for a minute and remind you that you can go back 2 weeks to our interview with Epen Thampi and hear Epen describe in great detail the proposal coming from Missourians for a Single Market. Okay, back to the Christopher Parker piece. Banderman said his biggest concern with any new state legislation is uncertainty on the federal level. The U.S. Congress hasn't clarified its position on unregulated hemp products. Last month, President Donald Trump said his administration will be reviewing federal law around marijuana and could change its classification as a Schedule I drug. Now, here's where we get into more breaking news. Parker says, closer to home, St. Louis County officials are weighing their own set of regulations to ban hemp products outside marijuana dispensaries. Regal and Grady both appeared at hearings to testify against those regulations. They predict the fight for hemp will be an ongoing battle across the state, but that's nothing new. Regal said he hopes to see some progress toward defining hemp's now ambiguous status. After last summer's controversy, many distributors who previously sold year-lit drinks decided to drop them, according to Regal. Regal says, I've got customers that I still haven't got back yet because they actually want to have regulation. They want rules. They want to buy a ticket that says, I'm allowed to sell this. Again, that story is brought to us by Christopher Parker. You can read it by going to emissourian.com, and you can purchase a digital subscription to the Washington Missourian, among other subscriptions you could purchase, by clicking on subscribe. Now, Mr. Parker references a St. Louis County proposal that would have put some regulations around these hemp products. Just this week in St. Louis County, the proposal was dropped by its sponsor, a St. Louis County Councilwoman named Lisa Clancy. And she says, after getting feedback, some would say pushback, from a number of voices, she said that now is not the time for those regulations. So we can bet, as this statewide ballot initiative moves forward, we'll hear a lot more about this from our elected officials and regulators. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to The Farm Show. As a reminder, you can join us 7 days a week on our social media outlets. You can find us at Farm Show Radio on Facebook. You can find us at Farm Show Radio on Instagram. And you can find us at Farm Show Radio on YouTube. We will see you next Saturday at 10 a.m.